Seasoned Christians and new believers alike continue to be puzzled by the last book of the Bible, Revelation, written by Apostle John, a disciple of Jesus, while he was exiled on the island of Patmos. It is filled with symbolism, strange creatures, and seemingly undecipherable future events. So, why in the world would anyone attempt to write on Revelation? Shouldn't we leave this task to the scholars and the prophetic sages of the world? But that's just it. John didn't write this book for an audience of scholars, but for believers, young and old, rich and poor, schooled and unschooled. So maybe it's not so complicated and confusing after all. Maybe it just is what it is. John saw something fantastical and he wrote it down. Not John the scholar, John, the fisherman turned apostle. And what he was shown at the time pertained to events that were so far into the future that he couldn't have had any frame of reference to accurately tell us what these things were, not really knowing what he was seeing. So you see, the best person to write on Revelation is not a scholar, but a person who is living in the time John described. Someone who could readily identify what John was seeing because they were, in fact, seeing the same things. After many years of me living on this earth during a time that is quickly rushing to match the Bible's end time description, and with over 40 years of reading and studying the Bible, there are many symbols and events that I now recognize and understand, ones that were completely baffling to me before. Perhaps things are clearer now because the events from those pages are here now. The insight of the most respected Bible scholar that lived on the planet 100 years or even 50 years ago has nothing on the potential to understand Revelation that the people living in the 21st century have. For example, can you imagine having a vision of the LAX airport in the 1800s? I saw giant birds with wingspans of 200 feet. They were metallic creatures. They made a noise like thunder, and fire came out of their wings. They nest near houses of glass, and people inside had telepathic powers. Some chose to not use their powers, and they just walked around like regular humans, but others would step to the side and let their telepathic powers just move them along as if they were floating close to the ground. You get the picture? Do we really need a prophet or someone with a biblical degree to interpret this vision? No, we just need to live in the age in which what they saw was actually happening. What they saw was nothing more than airplanes and people movers, something most of us take for granted when we travel. So, what did John see? He saw a future that was much different than he had ever seen. He also saw God's house, something that will never be common and ordinary, no matter what age. So I'm not going to pull out a bunch of reference books and biblical texts to exegete the passages. No, I'm just going to simply look around, and with the help of the Holy Spirit, I'm going to take the things that I recognize in my generation to try to determine where we are in the future event. So don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to find the day or the hour that Jesus is coming back. Wouldn't that be a silly waste of time since he told us we would never know? I am, however, going to look closely at the season. To paraphrase what Jesus said, you don't exactly know when, but you should be watching, praying, and expecting my return when you start to see the signs. So Paul said in 1 Thessalonians 5, 1 through 7, but concerning the times and the seasons, brethren, you have no need that I should write to you. For you yourselves know perfectly that the day of the Lord so comes as a thief in the night. For when they say peace and safety, then sudden destruction comes upon them, as labor pains upon a pregnant woman, and they shall not escape. But you, brethren, are not in darkness, so that this day should overtake you as a thief. You are all sons of light and sons of the day. We're not of the night nor of darkness. Therefore, let us not sleep as others, but let us watch and be sober. So here we go. Revelation, one chapter at a time. Not for biblical scholars, but for beginners who simply want a practical guide to the end of the age.